HerTorah is a collaboration between SVIVAH and Yeshivat Maharat, who are service faculty. And the idea behind HerTorah is to build connections between women over shared texts and to amplify the voices of women in Jewish thought and scholarship. So along those lines, everybody please check out the Maharat Yamim Noraim Guide, which has some really wonderful Torah written by Yeshivat Maharat students and alum. With SVIVAH, we gather monthly with different women scholars and teachers, usually in the Washington, D.C. area, but this is our first experiment with this format, and in general, we always like to try to find new ways of connecting. We have some fantastic scholars with us here tonight, and I can't wait for you to meet them. Our first guest is my colleague, Amalia Haas. Amalia, where are you? Can you wave? Oh, there you are. Okay. Amalia is going to be talking about the meaning of honey on Rosh Hashana. Amalia is a student at Yeshivat Maharat, and she is a scholar in residence, consultant, and experiential educator. And she inspires audiences to sustain people, pollinators, and planet. Her work has been featured in many publications, including E-Jewish Philanthropy, the Cleveland and New York Jewish News, and the 2010 book, Kosher Nation. Amalia is CEO of www.beawesome.com and lives in Cleveland, Ohio, where she raises 6 children and 1.2 million bees. When not coaching or teaching, you can find her among her hives at www.be-awesome.com. And one lucky listener tonight is going to win a bottle of Amalia's honey. And it's really good. I've had it. So that will be wonderful. Thank you, Amalia, and Shana Tova.
It's such a delight and honor to be here, and I'm excited to be first and just to share with you a little bit about the meaning of honey on Rosh Hashana. So I've brought a few honeys with me just to sort of spark your imagination as we're talking and any questions that you might have. So that's a super dark honey. This is a hyper local honey that I just harvested next to my house. This is a creamed cinnamon fall spice honey. And this, to me, is possibly the most appropriate thing to be on our tables on Rosh Hashanah. This is comb honey straight from the hive, unprocessed. So, you know, obviously, I'm here with this very impressive group of scholars and teachers, and our listeners surely know that on honey, on Rosh Hashanah, we dip apples in the honey and we say out loud and certainly in our hearts, L'shana tova u'metuka, that the year should be sweet and good. And we say that with the taste of honey in our mouths. And part of what I would like to do is share with you what that means to me as somebody who works with the bees and who has learned so much from the community of bees, which, by the way, is largely a female community that works together as a team. The Torah describes the bees as an edah. They are the only being besides the Jewish people and other human communities that's described as an edah. Certainly, we normally translate Edat Yisrael as the congregation of Israel, but Edat Divorim, we might translate as moderns, as the superorganism of the bees, meaning that that the whole is greater than the individuals, and also that the whole is something different than all the individual bees put together. That there's sort of a hive mind, a greater wisdom there. And so with honey, when we dip that apple in the honey, what we often don't realize is that just that small quantity of honey that's dripping from the apple comes from really about 200,000 flowers. That's about half a teaspoon of honey. And it takes one bee her entire lifetime to produce 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. So when we're tasting that honey, we're not only tasting something that's the product of a terroir, that's the product of a particular landscape, but we're also oftentimes tasting something that's the product of a time span that goes beyond the season. And the success of those bees in being able to produce that honey relied on the rain falling, relied on the sun shining and making those plants grow. And then, of course, previous to that, during the winter, required those bees surviving. And so working back in time, when we're tasting the honey of this year in our mouth at this Rosh Hashana, we're actually tasting the product and the promise of the blessing of the entire previous year that was given on the previous Rosh Hashanah, and even being able to taste that comes from the bees having been blessed, the rain falling, the plants growing, the nectar being produced, and the bees succeeding in making it into the honey. And when we say L'Shana Tova Metuka on that taste, which is from the whole previous year, we say it with the prayer that just as this past year we were blessed to have a world in which honey could be produced, so may the divine also make this coming year a year in which our planet is sustained, in which the plants grow, the rain falls, the bees are once again able to give what they give to the world in terms of not only the blessing of the honey, but the blessing of the apple and all the different fruits and vegetables that sustain us and our families and our community. So yeah, honey it's a very, very exceptional product, and it's the only food that we have actually that can't ever go bad. That is to say, even if it crystallizes, if it becomes solid, that's just a natural process, and it can be re-liquefied just by warming it in a pot of hot water. And so, you know, honey was removed from Paro's tombs, and it was totally fine. So when we taste honey, we are actually tasting the only food product on earth that has that quality of ad olam, of eternality in it. And that's also what we pray, that our actions that we do day by day, that our prayers themselves will have an impact on the world going forward, and that the Jewish people will survive forever, and continue to bring our blessings into the world from our hives, so to speak.
Amalia, I'm so glad you were the one to start us off. That is absolutely so beautiful. Thank you so much. Talk about sweetness to kick us off. I love it. Thank you so, so much.
Shana Tova Metuka, everybody.
Hold on, I'm following up. Let's see, Martha Landau, are you listening? If yes, you won some honey. Shana Tova, all the way from Amalia to Martha. I love it. Amalia, thank you so much. Shana Tova,
thank you. Ktiva Tova.
All right, up next, we've got the one, the